What's up, freaks? Today we have a hell of an episode for you. It is a location that I've wanted to visit for a long time and may actually end up visiting in the near future. It's in Canada. To be more specific, it's in the Northwest Territories. Now, for anyone who knows me, you might know where this episode is going. But for anyone who hasn't met me in person yet, I'll give you a few hints. It is in a national park. It is the site of several mysterious events. It is stunningly beautiful. I'll give you a minute to guess. And if you guess the Valley of the Headless Men in Nahanni National Park Preserve, you get a gold star. And the first person who makes it through this episode and types the secret code word in the comments, you will get a mystery prize in the mail. That is right, the show's first ever prize. I still don't know what that will be, but you will find out. Without further ado, let's get into it. While the official name is the Nahanni National Park Preserve, it is sometimes referred to as Headless Valley or Valley of the Headless Men. And we're going to get into that nickname shortly, because that is the title of this episode. It's in the Dai-Cho region of the Northwest Territories, an area which covers nearly 200,000 square kilometers in the southwest portion of that territory. For anyone that's not familiar with Canada, it is a portion of land a bit north of the 49th degree parallel. The total population of the Dai-Cho region is about 2,000 people scattered across a few small settlements. The park preserve also covers a portion of the Mackenzie Mountains, a stretch of mountains that I had the privilege of driving through on my way to Tuktoyaktuk. It shredded my tires, 3 to be exact, but it left an indelible mark on my heart, and I still have plans to camp through this area over the years. The centerpiece of this park is the South Nahanni River with 4 noteworthy canyons called, and I'm not making this up, first, second, third, and fourth canyons. Good luck remembering that. The canyon walls can reach 1,000 meters in height in certain areas, and the river itself is classed as a white water route. Now, as someone who already isn't a huge fan of the water, I have zero desire to paddle that death trap. Even a lake that gets too windy has me puckered up. The word Nahanni comes from the local Dene name for the area. Dene is one of Canada's indigenous groups. And the word Nahanni means river of the land of, and I cannot pronounce this word, but I believe it is probably pronounced Nahanni people. The park is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The landscape up there is very topographically diverse, with sedimentary rock, igneous rock, fossils, and several granite towers referred to as the Ragged Range. The park itself covers 30,000 square kilometers and was established in 1972. The majority of the park is only accessible by boat or float plane. I mean, technically accessible by foot if you feel like walking, weeks, months. Some notable features include Mount Nirvana, a nearly 2,800 meter peak in the park, Virginia Falls, and Mason Rock. That's a combo landmark right there. A waterfall which has carved out the weaker rock and left an imposing monolith in the middle of the river. I will throw a picture up in the YouTube video. And Rabbit Kettle Hot Springs and Tufa Mounds, the largest tufa mounds in Canada. Now, a quick explanation of tufa. Volcanic activity heats up the water underground. This hot water dissolves calcium carbonate with limestone deposits. When this water-dissolved mineral concentrate reaches the surface, the water cools off and the calcium carbonate particles are released. They form a rocky substance known as tufa. The area of Rabbit Kettle Hot Springs is considered a Zone 1 Special Preservation Area, and anyone visiting this site must be accompanied by Parks Canada staff, and visitors to the North Mound of the tufa must be barefoot. The park itself is quite biologically diverse. It encompasses 3 of Canada's ecozones, known as the Taiga Cordillera, Taiga Plains, and Boreal Cordillera. There are 42 mammal species in the park, 180 types of birds, 16 fishes, and a few amphibians. Nahanni National Park is so beautiful that it was also voted one of the 7 natural wonders of Canada. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's get to the reason why we are all here today. How did it get the name Valley of the Headless Men? Ooh. Humans have occupied this valley from at least 10,000 years ago. These were the Dene, sometimes called Slavey people, one of Canada's indigenous groups. I keep saying that because a lot of people that are listening are not from Canada, so we use the word indigenous like some people would use the word Native American or First Nations. There are references from the oral history of a mountain-dwelling Naha tribe that used to raid settlements in the adjacent lowlands, but the Naha people mysteriously disappeared from the oral legends. European fur traders began moving into the region in the 18th century, building trading posts at Fort Simpson and Fort Liard, and I was curious how long it would take to get up there, and from Edmonton to Fort Liard would be about a 13.5-hour drive for anyone that is interested. Fur trading then became a major part of the early economy of this region. The stories of the mountain-dwelling Naha people were popularized during the Klondike Gold Rush. Some explorers tried to use the Nahanni region as a path to the gold fields in the Yukon. They also attempted to find gold along the Nahanni River. Who are the Métis? This is something I wanted to bring up because the Métis people are very important to the, genesis of this story. But the Métis are a distinct indigenous people with a unique history, culture, language, and way of life. This excerpt is from the Métis Nation of Ontario website. The Métis Nation is comprised of descendants of people born of relations between First Nations women and European men. The offspring of these unions were of mixed ancestry. Over time, a new indigenous people called the Métis resulted from the subsequent intermarriage of these individuals. This ethnogenesis of distinct Métis communities along the waterways and around the Great Lakes region of present-day Ontario occurred as these people were no longer seen as extensions of their maternal First Nations or paternal European relations, and began to identify as a separate group. So we get into the origin of the name Valley of the Headless Men. So this is from the Fodor's travel website. Lured by reports of gold in the area, brothers Frank and Willie McLeod journeyed from Edmonton, Alberta to the Nahanni Range in 1904. Traveling with primitive gear, they traversed hundreds of kilometers by train, boat, and foot during a numbingly cold winter until they reached Gold Creek. Their efforts were rewarded that year, and they returned to their home in Fort Liard with gold in hand. However, not satisfied, the brothers made a second expedition into the Nahanni Range in 1905. They never returned. Nothing was heard from Frank and Willie until brother Charlie McLeod led a search in the park in 1908, where he discovered 2 skeletons at their camp on the river's edge in a vast valley. Their heads had been severed, and one man lay with his arm outstretched toward his gun. The blankets were thrown across from his brother, as if he had leapt suddenly from bed, read the reports. From that day forward, the valley has been known as Dead Man Valley, and the creek called Headless Creek. This prompted the creation of a poem, The McLeod Brothers 3, by Niels Asphalt, which unfortunately is too long to read in its entirety here, so look that one up if you'd like a bit of extra dose of history from the region. This also led to the creation of the Legend of the Lost McLeod Mine, a legendary mine named after the deceased brothers, rumored to be full of gold, and according to police reports, 20 people so far have died searching for this lost mine. A Scottish engineer had been traveling with the McLeod brothers, and he was also never seen again, and Yukon prospector Martin Jorgensen met a similar fate in 1917. He had sent news home that he had struck it rich in the area, and not long after, his decapitated skeleton was found outside his cabin, which had been burned to the ground, spawning rumors of headhunters in the valley in Canadian newspapers. In 1946, Frank M.W. Henderson reported that his partner, John Patterson, had disappeared. Henderson and Patterson had agreed to meet at a point near Virginia Falls in the now Nahanni region. Patterson never returned. Henderson had hired a party of indigenous packers to help with the camp, who one night warned Henderson of white figures moving along the valley. These men left soon after the chilling incident. In 1947, author Pierre Burton was sent by the Vancouver Sun to cover the North. He, along with pilot Russ Baker, flew up the Headless Valley. Writing on his journey for Maclean's, Burton remarked, Maclean's is a very popular Canadian magazine, Burton remarked, Frank Henderson himself, a man who perhaps has good reason not to want too many people rushing into the valley, was quoted as saying on his return from the area last fall, there is absolutely no denying the sinister atmosphere of that whole valley. The weird continual wailing of the wind is something I won't soon forget. There are also reports of similar deaths that have been made to the RCMP, suspicious plane crashes in the area, rumors of UFOs and strange lights, and, of course, Bigfoot sightings. Now, one that really caught my attention were rumors of Amphicyonidae sightings in the park, often referred to as bear dogs. These are animals, mammals that are allegedly up to 1,700 pounds. They were supposed to have died off 7 million years ago, but we know these numbers are just best guesses. The fossil record is full of gaps. This may be where the indigenous legend of the Wahila originated. This next segment is taken from the Cryptid Wiki website. There are also sightings of the Wahila made by ordinary Americans. A mechanic described this animal as looking like a wolf on steroids. He estimated its height at 3.5 feet at the shoulder. The largest wolves ever recorded have been 3 feet 2 inches tall at the shoulder, but these are truly rare. If the mechanic's estimate was correct, then this animal was at least 4 inches taller than the biggest wolf that we know of. Other details differed from a true wolf. Its head was too broad for that of a wolf, and its build was too heavy, almost bear-like. It had pure white fur that was exceptionally long. Other reports agree with the general description above, but add more detail. The Wahila, despite the fact that it is larger than a wolf, had shorter legs than a wolf. The impressive shoulder height comes from the massive body instead of its legs. Its ears are smaller than a wolf's ears, and the tracks show toes set farther away from each other than in a wolf's tracks. The Wahila is never found in packs, and they stay in the coldest, most inhospitable environments of the extreme north, favoring areas where there are few people. The area where the Wahila is sighted is one of the most remote places in the world. The fact that these lands are relatively unexplored means that there is a fair chance of discovering animals there. In 1964, In 1964, explorer parachutist Jean Poirel from Montreal jumped at the source of the South Nahanni River 500 kilometers north of Yellowknife, followed by his teammate Bertrand Bordet. Probably Bordet if they're French. Jean Poirel imagined the idea of going down the river with inflatable dinghies. During the following 4 consecutive expeditions in the valley, Jean Poirel discovered more than 250 caverns. The most important contained 116 doll's sheep skeletons, carbon dated to 2,500 years BC. Jean Poirel named it Valerie Cavern after his daughter. He took topographic notes and drew detailed maps paving the way for the park's creation. During his last expedition in 1972, he escorted Pierre Trudeau, who came to evaluate the region. Now, shockingly, no horror movies have been made about any of these stories. It has been referenced a little bit in literature, but this is ripe for a horror movie. So, what do you think? Is it the mountain-dwelling Naha tribe, a supernatural beast, or greedy human prospectors taking out the competition? Thanks for making it to the end. I had fun researching, writing, and recording this episode. The first person to comment the code word Nahanni on YouTube will receive a mystery prize from yours truly in the mail. Yay!